In the world of retail, a massive amount of value is still being left on the table, wasted through inefficient supply chains and one-time transaction models. Forward-looking businesses know that the next generation of growth and customer loyalty will be built on resilient, value-retaining models such as rental, repair, and resale. The core challenge is finding the right strategy to scale these circular solutions to millions of customers. Welcome to the Circular Economy Show. I'm Danielle Hawley, the executive lead for North America at the MacArthur Foundation. The insights you're about to hear around food, circular business models, and rotisserie chickens, yes, rotisserie chickens, are critical for accelerating that transition. Today, we're sharing another session from our Circular Economy Leaders event at Climate Week New York, exploring how circular design meets customer demands using the powerful example of the food system. The global food system is currently responsible for 30% of greenhouse gas emissions, over half of human-induced biodiversity loss, and is really vulnerable to supply chain shocks, often as a result of climate change. The question we asked is, how can the key nodes of retail work together to drive a food system that is regenerative, delicious, and financially viable? The conversation was hosted by my colleague Reniera O'Donnell, who's the executive lead for retail at the MacArthur Foundation. She was joined by three leaders driving global consumer supply chains: Nate Hurst, Chief Sustainability Officer at Visa; Burgess Davis, Senior Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer for North America at PepsiCo; and Scot Case, Vice President of Sustainability for the National Retail Federation. Let's join the discussion.
Scot, you represent retail over a number of different sectors. Why should retailers be embracing the circular economy?
In the circular economy, what is crazy fun and exciting is that the circular economy, circular systems, look drastically different in different parts of retail. So when we're in conversations around the circularity of fashion, we talk about resale and thrift, and there are all sorts of dimensions that are different than we start talking about circularity of electronics and computer products, et cetera. So then we talk about circularity of food, which gets even more interesting and complex. We start talking about things like regenerative agriculture. But retail has a very, very unique role. Retail is where the supply chains or the supply networks meet the consumer. We're the interface with the consumer. Yeah. And so there are certain expectations that consumers have, and some of them they don't use the word circularity. They have no clue what that means. They have very specific needs. Yeah. And in fashion, they want high quality, affordable products, and thrifting is huge. And electronics, they want high quality, affordable electronics. Buying used and refurbished is huge. When it comes to food, they're really thinking about, where do these products come from? How are these products grown? What can we do to protect the environment? Because that's something I'm consuming. So for us, circularity covers all these different aspects, but food is, particularly yummy for me.
It is. So delving just a little bit deeper, the first thing we need when we're going to buy things in the circular economy is products. So Burgess, coming to you, for us to be able to spend our money on products that perpetuate a circular economy, you have to have designed them, right? So what is PepsiCo doing to reshape your product and ingredient portfolio so that actually you become part of that food system that regenerates nature?
So as we just discussed, PepsiCo really relies on those crops and ingredients. So we need a really resilient supply system. And we therefore rely on the communities and the farmers that are growing our products. So we have, earlier this year, we expanded our goals on regenerative agriculture to now aim for over 10 million global acres that are regenerating, protecting, or restoring nature. And we do that by working with a lot of partners on supporting farmers in agricultural practices that include things like cover cropping, so employing been using things like clover and rye to be able to kind of enrich the soil and have healthier soils. We work with farmers to ensure like crop rotation and which enriches the soil through biodiversity and ensuring a broader exposure to other resources. We look at reduced tilling, which then helps preserve water and retain the organic matter in the soil. So all of these things, as part of regenerative practices, help to create resilient food systems, healthy soils. It also sequesters the carbon. So these are wonderful things that go into not only supporting positive agriculture, but then positive supply chains so we can ultimately deliver to the consumer.
I mean, I've heard the word resilience mentioned more times than carbon in this climate week, which excites me greatly. Nate, coming to you. So we've got products on the shelves, but we can't do anything without monetary flows and transactions to move these products along the supply chain and into our hands. You're a huge global player, as you have already said, largest shopping malls down to the tiniest rural markets. So what are you specifically doing to support the flow of transactions towards a circular economy?
Yeah, maybe I'll just first start by saying we're really a big data insights company, right? We're a technology company. And so we're listening to our clients, the demand that they're seeing from consumers. So maybe I'll just give, a couple examples. Both these examples are in Europe, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in places like North America too. So in Norway, one of our partners has designed technology where it's reusable cups. So they've already have the distribution model where these are in sort of what we call fast food restaurants here. They're in cafes. And so they look to us as a secure payment partner to say, hey, we want to make it really easy and provide the incentive to give people the choice to not feel like it's an inconvenience to use our cups and return them. We've set up the network, but we need a payments provider so that the money comes back to them right away and never think twice about doing it. So we built that system for them, and it's very successful. It's diverted 7,500 full trash bags of plastic just in the first year, and that's 750,000 cups in a small sample size, reused and recycled. So that's the capabilities that we have. We've also partnered with other major stadiums in Europe and having partners so that when you get reusable products or recyclable products, that you instantly, particularly where they give you money back for those products like glass and reusable plastic, that you can get a payment right there. You just basically tap, and Visa's giving you that money back right away. And we've seen that really be a great incentive to increase the reuse and recycle of those products, that people like PepsiCo and so many of your retailers are innovating and doing. So that's what we want to do, is help our customers. We have financial customers, which are, banks, financial institutions, but we also have a lot of merchant customers as well. And so we're listening and learning from them and following their lead on what technology needs they have. And then we go back to the lab and innovate and design.
I mean, it's so true. And, until the circular economy is as easy as the current linear economy to operate, it's never going to become the norm. So we've talked about the products. We've talked about a fantastic system that distributes the product and is able to bring it back. Scott, I wonder if you could share, what are the most interesting circular economy initiatives that you've seen pop up across the retailers in your network?
Wow. So there are bazillions and bazillions of examples of them. The challenge is that all consumers are thinking about these issues in slightly different ways. And so the magic of retail is ultimately what retail is doing is helping consumers find the products they need or want. And part of it is storytelling. So most consumers are not asking for circular solutions. They are asking for a solution to a problem that they're having. So when you talk about circular retail, you really need to pay close attention and think about the different definitions of circularity. There are resale initiatives that are amazing. There are recycling initiatives that are amazing. There are repair initiatives that are incredible. There are efforts to reduce food waste. There are efforts to promote healthier eating. All of these are part of the circular economy. So one of the things when we talk about circular economy inside of NRF, and things I sometimes say and get myself in trouble for, but the circular economy and thinking about circular retail is as important and as innovative as the invention of the cash register, right? No one cared when the cash register was invented, but it allowed retailers to help sell products that met their consumers' needs and desires. Circular retail is as exciting and innovative as the invention of the internet and e-commerce. People don't really care about how they're buying stuff as much as they care at, hey, this is making it easier for me to find what I need and what I want. The circular economy is addressing the same kinds of things. The consumers don't want to hear all the nitty-gritty details of exactly how it worked. What they want is to know, hey, I can buy products that meet my needs at an affordable price that aren't creating adverse human health, environmental, or social impacts. And that's what the circular economy is really all about. So from a retailer's perspective, the ultimate objective is to deliver what the consumers are seeking while also creating net positive environmental, social benefits. So it's the hidden aspects that are most interesting.
I agree. I think if you asked my two teenage daughters about the circular economy, they'd look at me and say, what? And I say, but you shop on resale platforms all the time and you do it because you can access brands at a price that your pocket money, because mother's too cheap to spend too much money on them, but their pocket money allows them to access different things. Burgess, I want to come back to you, and I would love to hear a bit more on, you talk about Pep Positive, and it has so many different aspects to it. What have been some of the real highlights that Pepsi has seen coming out of this in terms of like the actual business? So from a business and financial perspective.
So I'll maybe touch on two examples. So certainly on the regenerative agriculture side, the resilience of the farmland, the resilience of our supply chain, and then the increased productivity that happens on the farm certainly helps us and our business and have really great crops that we can then turn into ingredients. So I won't kind of go further into there because I've touched on regenerative agriculture a lot. But one thing that we've done internally is we've stood up a program called Sustainable from the Start. And what it does is it provides guiding principles and some tools as we think through like product innovation, everything from understanding the implications of new products or changes to products that have relating to packaging, relating to emissions, and relating to water consumption. And what this does is it not only helps provide kind of the right principles as we move forward, but we've talked a lot about collective action today. It does, I think, two things with collective action is that it brings cross-functional stakeholders internally from R&D and marketing and procurement and finance all together to understand the different implications from choices that we make and ultimately the products that we then bring to market. And it also, I think, drives collective action with external stakeholders, whether it's discussions with our suppliers on how do we make the products that we offer better, or even with our customers, making sure that we're providing those products to ultimately reach the consumer. So I think that there's, a lot of different positives that not only Pep Positive, but the circular economy can bring ultimately from the supplier through to the consumer.
And Nate, I wonder if, you've talked a little bit around why it's important for Visa, but maybe you want to expand on that as why is it such a good business opportunity? Why is the circular economy such a good business opportunity for Visa particularly? You've talked a lot about how you are supporting your customers, but for Visa particularly.
Yeah, I would say that we're part of the future of commerce, and we're a responsible company that is thinking about the planet and communities and raising people up and giving, everyone everywhere access to those economic benefits. And so it's important for us, to drive this change in this scale. There's financial benefits, but it's also part of who we are and our vision and our mission. And we can't reach that if we aren't driving new markets, like re-commerce. And so, it's why we've been a long-standing partner of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, partnerships like you, bringing that expertise back into our business, listening from you, listening to the network of partners here. And as we think about, new innovative models, new technology that we're applying, how do we build those learnings into our future business products?
So let's pick up on the theme of it's going to take all of us together. I think the previous panels, we've talked a lot about moving from individual business action into collective business action. And retail is this huge, vast number of products and product types and business models. And I guess my question is kind of thinking through that broader role of retail, so beyond the product, beyond the business model, but really what Scott said, that place where the customer meets the circular economy. What do you see as the real unlocks to scale our collective ability as customers to turn up and spend our money in the circular economy? Maybe Burgess, I'll start with you.
So the food system is huge. It takes a lot of engagement across the entire system in order to be able to bring really great regenerative products to the consumer. And so what I think the big unlock there is that we need to do more listening to our farmers. We need to really elevate their voices, and then we need to invest to support them in the actions that they take. It's a lot of risk that the farmers have to take on when they move from conventional practices to more regenerative practices. So the more that we can help support them in that, it goes really beyond kind of the technology and really the local expertise and the farmer to farmer interactions.
So we're talking about collaboration across the supply chain between different brands, between brands and retailers is really what we need to unlock. Nate, you talked about the behavioral lab. What other insights do you think are needed, or what other unlocks are needed that can only be driven by collaborative action?
Well, we sit on a lot of insights, right? We know how people are spending money. We know how they're moving around. A lot of their habits. So I think we need to continue to share those both with our partners and our clients, but as well as we're starting to share those with the consumers themselves. So we have a partnership with Ecolytic, where individuals who have that card can get back data on their own carbon footprint, their own environmental habits, and then sharing, choice that they can have, some of those being, circular opportunities. And so far, that's been pretty successful. So building that dialogue, and that education, and then them sharing it. And listen, small word of mouth can start to grow, right, and be organic. So we're trying a bunch of different things and are certainly open to ideas. We also have done some work with some clients of just as simple as creating, what we would call pop-ups. And those pop-ups, in that interface and those moments, making it fun and easy, for them to see their choices and seeing options where they can, get some of the same, fashion opportunities, but with reused and recycled material or clothes and, opportunities to thrift and all these types of things. Like the next generation is already thinking about this. I think one, because it's built into them that they absolutely care about the planet and their economies and growing and also helping people that otherwise wouldn't have those opportunities to sell, as well as it just makes economic sense for a lot of people. So those are just a few ways we're doing.
And Scott, you've been here all day. You're going back to covering all the retailers across the US. I guess, what would be the key messages that you would take back to the retailers in your network around collaboration to further a circular economy?
So I think one of the key pieces and a key opportunity is collaborative storytelling.
Yeah.
Consumers respond to stories, but we're still learning to tell circularity stories, food circularity stories. So can I try real fast?
Go for it.
Let's talk about rotisserie chicken. Anyone ever bought a rotisserie chicken? All right. There are so many circularity stories with rotisserie chicken at a grocery store. Where did the chicken originate? What was the chicken fed? Is it organic? Is it free range? Were all of the agricultural processes regenerative, right? Now we're in a grocery store. We've got a chicken. Someone has to decide, how many chickens do I put in the rotisserie, right? I don't want to put in too many, because if I put in too many, then I'm not going to sell them all. Then I might have food waste. If I don't put in enough, I might lose out on a sale. So we're using AI to make sure we're optimizing the right number of chickens cooking at the right time. But wait, what if I actually do have extra chickens at the end of the day? What do I do with them? Is this waste? Do I throw it away? But wait, if you think about it, hey, I can make chicken salad now. So I take the rotisserie chickens out that I didn't sell, I chop them all up, I put them in a salad. I can actually sell those the next day. It's still fresh. So all of these are circularity stories, but what if I don't sell all of the salads, all the chicken salads? There might be an opportunity to donate to the local food bank things that were unsold. There might be opportunities, if you've missed that donation window, I need to, in fact, compost or maybe put it in a digester and turn it into energy. All of these are circularity stories that rarely go told or talked about or shared. So there are circularity solutions in every aspect of retail, and we get there by working collaboratively with our suppliers, which ultimately go all the way down to the farmers.
I think you've answered slightly backwards the question I was going to end on, which is...
Backwards me? Circular, not backwards.
You've covered it. I mean, you've painted a picture of all the decisions that need to be made. But I was going to say to all three of you, EMF celebrates, we turned 15 this month, right? So we've been around for 15 years. And I don't know about any of you, but 15 years ago, I wasn't online grocery shopping. I wasn't ordering through resale platforms. So, so much has changed in how we access the things that we use every day. Rotisserie chickens being a good example on a weekend every now and again. And I guess I would love to get your thoughts as we end the session on what is your vision for what retail is going to look like in the next 15 years? And maybe Burgess and Nate, we'll give you the floor first, because I think, Scott, you gave us enough to think about, dealing with all of those challenges.
I'm just hungry.
Burgess.
So I joined a session earlier this week that was talking about kind of trends within retail and consumers, and there were a number of really interesting stats on how we would be using AI. I mean, obviously, a lot of shoppers use AI today. And I think in the next few years, I think a lot more even transactions will go through AI. So what I certainly hope is that as part of the prompt that we're using to put into our purchases, that I hope it includes things not just out of, timely deliveries and convenience and price, but I truly hope that it includes things around circularity and regenerative. And I think the more that we can do collectively, as companies, with NGOs, with government, with advocacy, to help drive that forward and make the food system better, hopefully becomes a much more kind of natural prompt within the system.
Yeah, it's very, very well said. I mean, think about it. We've come a long way just in understanding what is in a product, right? And being able to have that choice as to whether or not you want to still continue to purchase that. And so I think we absolutely, in 15 years from now can have regenerative, have the recyclability, have, the opportunity, make it just as easy as it is to purchase, to reuse, recycle, get it back into the economy on the back end. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us. It's all of our responsibility to do everything we can to try to make that happen.
Thank you. You've got about 30 seconds, Scott.
30 seconds. The only constant in retail is change, constantly changing. And those retailers who fail to change go out of business. Those retailers who ignored e-commerce missed out on huge opportunities when everyone was all of a sudden, because of this pandemic thing, everyone was buying everything online. Those retailers that were not prepared are not here today. When you look forward into the future, those retailers who are not actively embracing, promoting, planning around a circular retail economy will just not be here.
Coming out of that conversation with Nate from Visa, Burgess from PepsiCo, and Scot from the National Retail Federation. 2 clear strategic challenges for every retail business were highlighted. First, where can you remove friction for the customer? Circularity has to be easier, more convenient, and more irresistible than the linear option. Think about how you can use design systems and products, as well as financing them, to simplify and improve customer experiences like take-back, repair, or resell models. Second, are you investing in shared solutions? We heard that individual pilots are really difficult to scale. For the food system, that means understanding the full value chain from the source of ingredients to product design to food service and supermarket shelves. It means collaboration across supply chains and between brands and retailers to set standards, share data, and shift systems. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Circular Economy Show. If you enjoyed it, then please share it and leave us a review, and we'll see you next time.